Inception heisst der vierfach Oscar-gekrönte Science-Fiction von Christopher Nolan mit dem Leonardo DiCaprio und dem Marion Cotillard. Der Cop kann geheime Informationen aus dem Unterbewusstsein von Schlafenden extrahieren. Doch plötzlich bekommt er von einem Kunden den Auftrag, das Unterbewusstsein von einem Konkurrent zu manipulieren. Wir gehen ans Filmset und zeigen Ihnen, wie die Special-Effect-Tricks entstanden sind.
The material demanded this very large-scale approach. Inception certainly takes a lot of leaps in terms of the universal experience of dreaming. I wrote the script very much from my own experiences of dreaming and sort of extrapolating those. But there are certain things that we take to be common enough that people will be able to relate. The idea that you can't die in a dream. When you die in a dream, effectively you wake up. Things like the kick, the feeling of falling, snapping you awake. That seemed a very common thing, and certainly in talking to people, it seemed something that people really recognized. And it felt important to try and incorporate any of the really familiar touchstones of what it is to dream. Any of the things that are universal that could allow the audience to relate their own experience of dreaming to this rather, fantastical set of events.
Chris often talked about this sort of Escher-like architecture world where things are built on top of each other in layers and this endless stream of creation. So in that respect, from a character standpoint and working with him, was to say, look, if all these dream states are real to him, we have to treat them emotionally that way. In other words, everything needs to be emotionally charged.
There were quite a few similarities in terms of what the filmmaking process is and what the characters and what the team of characters is doing in the film itself. They're creators, they're people who create an entire world for somebody else to exist in. And Inception is intended to be a film that tries to explore the exciting possibilities of the human mind and the infinite potential of the human mind.
Japanese architecture has such a unique look to it and such a wonderful use of colour. So for me it was about creating a castle that was sort of somewhere between the 15th and 16th century that had then been inhabited by a modern man. And I had found some examples in Japan of traditional Japanese architecture that had been recreated as brand new, with all the varnish in place and with modern lighting. Chris saw that and thought, oh, this is just weird, it's strange, I really like it. And that's where we started.
The castle set was interesting because part of the dream becomes this earthquake. So, normally if you were doing an earthquake set, you'd build it onto some sort of rig that would shake it, so you would get all those movements. Because of the size of this set, it wasn't feasible to do that.
Wally Pfister, my director of photography, is a tremendous creative ally in terms of how the story is going to unfold visually. We looked at a lot of different earthquake devices, camera devices for shaking the camera, but really when you would test them they all looked a little mechanical, and so all of the shaking and shuddering effects for the earthquake are actually done in the old-fashioned way, just by shaking the camera. We combined that with a lot of Chris Corbould, our special effects supervisor, his expertise in destruction.
We always had to keep in the back of our minds that there was an earthquake going on, so all the way throughout we were pulling over statues, pulling over vases, bits of dressing. We were able to get up above and put big drop boxes, which when we pressed the button it would open up some trapdoors and out lots of lightweight debris.
We pre-tested everything, so we knew it was safe to put Leo in there. We had him running through soft debris, dropping on him, and beams were dropping beside him, and glass blowing behind him. And because Leo is very focused, you know that when you said you need to be here, he is there in that position. From A to B, he does exactly what you choreograph, which makes it very easy to put the effects around him.
The flood in the Japanese castle really challenged Chris Corbould to put this on film for real in a massive way, so that we could really put the performers in the middle of an extremely powerful event. Chris had a plan to have these big metal shipping containers full of water, which is the traditional dump tank method of doing this kind of scene. But it became immediately apparent as we looked at the way the stunt would work that we wouldn't be able to have, certainly wouldn't be able to the actors anywhere near it, let alone really even a stunt performer. What Chris and his guys came up with for this film was this extremely clever method of using air cannons.
Flooding was achieved by a series of 200-gallon pressurised containers, which we hit sequentially, and because they were coming from about 20 foot up high through windows, it sort of created like this big wave coming towards camera. You started dealing with, 200 gallons of water is a lot of weight. So we were pressurising it to 150 pounds per square inch, more high pressure water coming into the room. We wanted more of an atomised look rather than the traditional big dump of water, as it were. It's those shots you have to get right first time. It's a lot of setup. If you don't get it right first time, then you're into a big redress, because you've got 3,000–4,000 gallons of water now on the set.
I've always loved the work of M.C. Escher, and some of his prints do the most wonderful job of expressing paradox and infinity. I wanted to try and look at the concept of the Penrose Steps, this infinite staircase, and look at how could you build it in the real world? Is there some real world equivalent of it? And what we found through a lot of model building, just physically building models, is there are different ways to achieve that illusion. They're all cheats, obviously. This isn't something that can exist in the real world. So, I devised a sequence whereby you would present it from one angle, the angle of optical illusion, where it works.
Chris had already done some research and had decided how he wanted these Penrose Steps to be. His first question to me is, can you build a Penrose Step that actually works? And I said, well, of course you can, but actually it's almost impossible. We'd fitted the set into a location which was sort of a disused games company facility that was sort of constructed of steel and glass, one of those typical modern, beautiful buildings. And we'd designed this staircase in the same wood as the stairs that they had at this facility, so it almost looked like it was part of the environment.
These steps have to be built in such a way that when you view them from the one angle, the topmost level of the staircase lines up with the bottommost level of the staircase. And so what visual effects is able to do is we're able to make computer models of all of this and work out exactly the dimensions of the steps that have to be built and where the camera has to be in three-dimensional space to be able to film it.
It had to be done mathematically perfect, and in that it had to be a particular lens at a particular height and distance, and the camera had to drop in a particular way to hide the trickery.
The visual effects only real requirement on them was to remove the rig which supported the staircase, because the structure would have been probably a little dangerous had they not had a rig on it. It's visually quite dramatic and very carefully thought out.
Very much the sort of grand scale physical effect that I think can make an action film go to that next level.
When I first saw in the script that there's a train driving through a downtown street, I thought this is going to be phenomenal, and I knew right away that it was going to be 90 or 100% in camera.
I was thinking it's going to be a little tough downtown LA to find a train track. So I just said to myself, what would I do to get the sequence as a physical mechanical sequence? And the answer is literally prefab a train on the outside of a huge semi and drive it down the street.
We originally were going to look at a bus, but unfortunately there's no place to weld to a bus, and we needed a bigger carriage. So I started doing some investigation on semi-tractors, and that's what we ended up using. We bought a Stirling tractor, and then we stretched the frame and all the drivetrain to 36 feet from the front axle to the back axle.
The sides of the truck are actually made of plywood, very simple, light material. The lower part of this train was all manufactured from fiberglass, molds taken from real train wheels and real train parts, so that everything had the correct texture and look to it. The front half of this structure was built in sort of a mild steel. I think we had about 1.5 tons of steel actually in front of the truck's cab, in order to make sure that when this train impacted certain things in the film, it hits a number of cars, it didn't just shatter. It pushed the cars, smashed them up, did what it needed to do, and is very nightmarish.
I really felt like the challenge of the scene was to try and get across the incongruity, the strangeness of the image, so that it didn't feel like a regular train crossing. One of the ways we did that is at the last minute, we ordered a lot more cars for it to smash through. We had been doing one or two, and we realized we really needed to smash through a whole row of these cars. And we realized that if we could chew the pavement up with the wheels, you would notice not only are there no rails, but that actually these wheels shouldn't be running down this asphalt. So we put it to Paul and the Dino guys at the last minute, and you're adding these sort of cracks in the pavement, this kind of asphalt being churned up by by the wheels. It was a last-minute addition, but they did an incredible job just putting this little bit of damage. It's a subtle thing, but it really helps you realise that the train should not be there.
Alle Filmfans, die gerne wissen wollen, welche Streifen aktuell im Kino laufen, sind hier genau richtig. Welche Highlights es nächsten Mittwoch in der Kinosendung gibt, das erfahren Sie jetzt.
Der Rowan Atkinson ist zurück und das mal nicht als Mr. Bean, sondern als furchtloser Agent Johnny English, der wieder mal die Welt retten muss. Wie dass er das anstellt, das sehen wir nächste Woche bei uns im Kinomagazin am 7. da auf Star TV.
So, damit wären wir leider schon am Schluss von Home Cinema angelangt. Wer unsere Berichte über Marion Cotillard verpasst hat, kein Problem. Im Internet können Sie sich nämlich die ganze Sendung auch als Videostream anschauen. Klicken Sie dafür einfach bei startv.ch auf Sendungen. Dort hat es alle Ausgaben von Home Cinema. Natürlich sind auch wir auf Facebook präsent. Über unser Profil bekommen Sie so die spannendsten Infos immer als erstes. Ich sage jetzt Tschüss, ganz eine schöne Zeit und bis zum nächsten Mal. Und nochmal Happy Birthday, Marion Cotillard! Die Superphysiker Sheldon und Leonard sind zurück. In welche Fettnäpfchen sie in der 3. Staffel von der Big Bang Theory treten, das erfahren Sie in der nächsten Home Cinema Sendung, wie immer am Freitag am 7. hier auf Star TV.